we will be looking at the campus overall and its redevelopment plans and talking through the subsequent environmental impact report, the process through which we will be evaluating the future development of the campus, as well as some of the history that we have encountered on the campus. And apologies, I'm just realizing that Julie is translating live in another location, so I was trying to give her some pauses, but I'll keep going. As we've been chatting about, there is live interpretation. If you have a Windows, we'll just talk through the directions. In your meeting webinar controls, there is a button that looks like a globe that's labeled interpretation. There's either this icon here, or you may have 3 dots with the label more that you can click onto to find that icon. Once you click on the interpretation button, you can select which language you'd like to hear. And to hear only the interpreted language, you can select mute original. Just a note, you must join the meeting audio through your computer audio or VoIP, and you cannot listen to language interpretation if you use the dial-in or call me phone features, which I don't believe were available for this meeting. As a participant joining a language channel, you can broadcast back into the main audio channel if you unmute your audio and speak. And just so you all know, these directions will be posted into the chat so that you can see them if you need to refer back. If you're using an Android, you would need to access the meeting controls with the ellipses and click on language interpretation and then select the language that you wish to hear. You tap to the toggle mute original audio if you would like to mute the English version, and then click done once you have selected your options. Again, you cannot listen to the interpretation if you're on dial-in on your phone. And as a participant joining a language channel, you can again broadcast back into the original main audio channel if you mute your audio and speak. Allison, or team, can you confirm that the directions are in the chat? Yes.
They are in the chat. Yes.
Okay. All right, we're gonna move on. Actually, I'll give it just a few more seconds in case anyone wants to look at this and make sure they get into the interpretation.
And I will be providing the instructions in Spanish now. Hola, bienvenidos a la reunión. Vamos a tener interpretación simultánea durante su reunión. Siga los pasos que ve aquí en la pantalla, o si simplemente nos acompaña desde su computadora, busque en la parte inferior de su pantalla. Va a ver el icono del globo terráqueo, le hace clic ahí y puede acceder a la interpretación y escoger el idioma de su preferencia, que en este caso sería el español. No se le olvide silenciar el audio original para que escuche solamente la interpretación, y si nos acompaña desde un aparato móvil, una tableta, un teléfono celular, simplemente toque su pantalla o deslice la pantalla, busque los 3 puntitos o la palabra more, hágale clic ahí y le va a poder permitir acceder a la interpretación y escoger el idioma de su preferencia. De nuevo, no se le olvide silenciar el audio original, le da una palomita o clic en done o listo para que escuche la interpretación. Si tiene algún problema con interpretación, háganoslo saber en el chat y con gusto le asistiremos. Gracias y que disfruten su reunión.
Thank you, Julie. And I'll just ask the other folks running the project if you can confirm that the interpretation has started.
It looks like it has.
Okay.
I think we can get going and start recording the meeting.
Okay, let's jump in. So I've been talking, but I haven't introduced myself yet. Very nice to have you all here with us on Wednesday evening. My name is Kristen Hentz, and I am the Assistant Director of Capital Development at the Los Angeles County Department of Economic Opportunity, DEO for short. We are the lead agency for the master planning effort and the environmental review, and working closely with our consultant, Addie Farrell, with PlaceWorks. She will be leading the environmental and is acting as our CEQA consultant. Along with the two of us who will be presenting today, we're so happy to be under leadership from Supervisor Solis's office with the First District. We have a few folks on the call there. There's so many to name, but we'll just name Guadalupe, who's been really championing this process and guiding us through the community engagement. As I mentioned, DEO is the lead agency. We're working closely with our partners at the Chief Executive Office, our developer team, Centennial Partners, who is a joint venture between Prime Store and Bay Spring Real Estate Partners. And then the Wellness Center, who has been guiding us through the strategic advisement for the community engagement process, the HICP, and the Los Angeles General Medical Center Foundation. I'm sure there are plenty more to name, but thank you all for all of your participation thus far, and look forward to working with you all for many years to come, in addition to the many years that have already been underway. So today's meeting, as we mentioned, is a public scoping meeting for the subsequent EIR. We will be focused specifically on the EIR, but we'll talk through some history of the project. Our agenda today will look at the California Environmental Quality Act, or CEQA for short, and the purpose of the meeting, the project overview and history, the CEQA process as it will unfold over the next several months or year, and then open up for public comment. I will say this now and we'll repeat again. The public comment period in today's meeting will open for 1 minute and will allow folks to share comments, which we will sort of give some parameters on later. This will not be an active question and answer, so your comment will be recorded and made as part of the process for the SEIR. So I'll pass it over to Addie. We'll play a little ping pong as we go through the slides, and she will give you the intro overview to CEQA.
Yeah, thank you, Kristen. Just as a start for our foundation of this meeting, wanted to introduce a little bit about the California Environmental Quality Act, again, or CEQA, as it's commonly referred to as, which is the reason why we're all here together tonight for this project. And thank you all for your time in participating in the CEQA process for this project. So CEQA is really the state's seminal set of environmental laws. CEQA does not dictate whether a project is approved or denied, but instead results in an informational document about environmental effects of a project. So the primary purpose of CEQA is first to evaluate through a series of technical studies and information finding the potential environmental effects of a proposed project, and then importantly, identify the ways in which we can reduce or eliminate those significant environmental effects. CEQA is about informing the decision makers and the public, again, why we are all here this evening, about physical effects on the environment, and really foster interagency coordination early and prior to a project's approval. CEQA identifies ways to avoid or significantly reduce environmental impacts through what we call mitigation measures or feasible alternatives to a project. If an agency determines that a project would have significant effects on the environment, we have to prepare what is called an environmental impact report, or EIR. And if a project is approved, even in light of those significant environmental impacts, the lead agency, again, in this case, the County of Los Angeles, must disclose to the public the reasons why. Let's go on to the next slide, which is the purpose of this meeting tonight. So this meeting is called a scoping meeting. It's part of the county's 30-day scoping period, which is at the very beginning of the environmental review process as required by CEQA. So the purpose of the scoping meeting tonight is really to facilitate coordination, consultation between the lead agency, the county, and any responsible agencies, adjacent cities, municipalities, public transit agencies, as well as, of course, interested organizations and individuals. So thank you all again for taking time to engage in this process. The objective of this meeting tonight is to receive feedback from all of you to help determine the scope and content of the environmental document that will be prepared for this project. It is really an informational gathering meeting for the county. No decisions about the project will be made during this meeting, and it really isn't intended to be a Q&A sort of meeting. It's more about receiving your comments about environmental impacts and issues related to this project. Just wanted to note, at any time during this meeting, you can provide a written comment in the chat of your on the bottom of your toolbar there. And then at the end of the meeting, we will encourage you to provide verbal comments, again, related to the environmental impacts of the project and what you think is important for this EIR to consider. So let's go on to the next slide, Kristen.
Gosh, sorry about that. I was on mute. I just want to confirm that folks have access to the chat so that they can provide comments throughout the meeting. Okay, I think we are good to go. Okay, so we will dive into some background on the project, just to set the stage of what we're talking about and where we are. Just a little history on the site. Some of you may know General Hospital is a 1.2 million square foot, 19-story Art Deco building that opened in 1934 and served the broader LA community until damage from the Northridge earthquake led to its closure in 2008. The building has largely been vacant since then, but houses various county departments, the Wellness Center, who we mentioned earlier, and the US Navy operations, varying throughout the floors 1 through 4. The site is located in Boyle Heights and is sort of in the midst of various freeways, the 5 freeway, the 10 freeway, adjacent to Lincoln Heights, Lincoln Park, Boyle Heights, the Union Station and Yards, and the Brewery Artist Loft. And is also sits very close to the Hazard Recreation Center. The master plan and what we are looking at today, and in our planning efforts and environmental review, consists of the campus overall, which is that main outlined campus in the middle, and then some ancillary sites just to the south and the northwest, outlined in black on the top of the screen and on the bottom of the screen. We consider that middle portion of our main campus, but also are looking at the environmental impacts of any development either there or in the ancillary parcels as a collective. On the site, in particular, the main campus, we have the historic General Hospital building, as well as many, up to 20, maybe more, ancillary sites on campus. Most notably that you all may be aware of is the current medical center, which is located here in the top right of the image in the light pink. And then in the purple, some of the restorative care village, residential supportive housing that is under construction today. Other buildings include things like parking structures, the central plant, which powers the campus, the viaduct building, the pharmacy building, the medical examiner's building. This planning process has been one that's ongoing for over a decade at this point, and started in 2013 with a county site assessment, imagining redevelopment of this campus. It led to a county visioning exercise and ultimately an EIR, which Addie will talk through more in detail later. That campus plan in 2014 looked at about 1.7 million square feet of primarily medical related new development, demolition of most of the existing structures on site, and contemplated uses such as these highlighted on the slide: medical office, professional office, workforce housing, parking, research and development, wellness-oriented community facilities, and recreation. Following those efforts and other developments that sort of took shape during the time of 2014 to 2022, the county started to look at a feasibility study working with a consultant, AECOM, on additional analysis to determine further redevelopment of the campus into a mixed-use campus featuring additional residential and other uses, which we'll talk through shortly. That feasibility study included a community and stakeholder engagement process, which this process is building upon, technical due diligence, analyzing the current structural capacity of the hospital, market analysis, looking at the financial sort of landscape of redeveloping the campus, and then resulted in a county RFP for the master plan that we are in today. I kind of talked through some of that, and we landed in that process with the selection of Centennial Partners, who's on the call today, to lead our long-term master planning effort, which is looking at a more robust redevelopment of the campus. That master planning effort began in 2024 and included a comprehensive project requirements assessment, which worked with community stakeholder groups and evaluated the additional technical analysis and site recommendations, or additional technical analysis to come up with site recommendations for the guiding principles for this master plan. The comprehensive project requirements evaluated the campus in its whole, looking at the infrastructure and the capacity to be redeveloped into mixed-use housing. This year, we're working through our master planning phase, and then we'll also be doing our environmental review, which is what this meeting is circulated around, and our master plan concept development. This is an overview of the master plan development, which we are calling the Los Angeles County General Hospital Campus Community Plan. The proposed project includes implementation of a new master plan building off of the 2014 and the feasibility studies. It includes three main elements when it comes to how we're engaging with the public. One is the master plan itself, so the development of the conceptual plan. Two is the community benefits agreement, which we'll talk about shortly. That really identifies what's important for the community and comes to an agreement with the developer on how that gets action going forward. And then the environmental review process under CEQA. The details of this master plan and the uses will evolve through the planning process and be fully analyzed in the SEIR. The proposed uses that we're looking at as of today include residential, affordable housing, of course, commercial retail, hospitality, community benefits, educational facilities, warehouse uses, industrial, particularly light industrial, parking, open space, infrastructure, and demolition of buildings that are no longer within their useful life period and are not operating at their most efficient capacity. So, as I mentioned, we're looking at three elements within this planning process. We've got first a community plan, which some of you have been engaged in thus far, and we hope those of you who have not been will join us. So that's really looking at the master plan, and that's the long-term roadmap that guides the development of the site with a focus on housing, healthcare, mobility, open space, and community services. And this helps to educate the public and shape a shared vision for how the site will serve community needs in the future. This is the big picture visioning. This is, getting all of your ideas on paper, communicating that to the county, to the development team, and really working through different iterations of site design, and programmatic elements. And so that leads to what we're calling a programmatic master plan, which looks at high-level programs and priorities, a mix of scale and uses. So what is the right size, shape, siting, adjacencies of these buildings as we think about spatial relationships? What are the transportation and parking strategies, circulation networks, infrastructure support, and guiding principles for this development? And then as we think about implementation, what is the phased approach that will allow for long-term flexibility to accomplish all of these goals? And it's important to note in the campus plan, we're talking specifics, we're talking, very detailed, or we're talking about the uses and the things that you would like to see specifically on the campus, which differ slightly from what we're evaluating from the EIR perspective, which is a broader maximum envelope on what the campus can handle from an environmental standpoint versus what you all, the community, would like to see on the campus in the master plan. I also mentioned a community benefits agreement. This is an agreement between a developer and community representatives that outlines specific benefits the project will provide to local residents. These benefits can be things like local hiring, affordable housing levels, small business opportunities, environmental improvements, and public spaces. And these are ongoing conversations between the community and the developer to figure out how tangible items, tangible outcomes can be delivered to the neighborhood and ensure that private investment and community priorities are aligned, and helping to build trust and accountability throughout the development process, which starts today, but really is a long-term 20+ year process. And so as you think about ways that you can be involved from a community standpoint, we have a layer of different processes. We've got our master plan process, which, as I mentioned, for this particular phase and iteration started earlier this year, and has gone through concept package development. We had our first community workshop last Saturday, and we'll be having another one this fall. And then that leads us to our EIR scoping meeting, which is the first chance for folks to comment on the environmental aspect of the master plan. This will inform the development of the draft EIR and what gets analyzed and evaluated. And then we'll have an additional public review session nearing the completion of the draft for additional comments and reactions to what's in the draft and what the analysis is saying thus far. And that will culminate into a final EIR targeting the end of next year or the late fall of next year. So that gets us into the CEQA process. I'll hand it back over to Addie to talk us through kind of what's been done thus far from an EIR perspective and where we go from here.
Thanks, Kristen. Yeah, as mentioned, there has been a rather long history of environmental review and approvals that have happened on this campus, on this project site. So Kristen had mentioned the master plan from 2014, which the county also prepared kind of a program level environmental impact report that was around this previous master plan. This slide here presents a very high level summary of the environmental impact conclusions that were presented in the 2014 EIR. This EIR, I will say, is online. It's on the county's website, same location as the notice of preparation, which is how we all got here tonight. So feel free to take a look. There's a lot of, history, background information that is available to you. But essentially, it concluded no significant environmental impacts for agriculture and mineral resources, less than significant impacts related to land use and population and housing. And then a series of mitigation measures were identified for biological resources, geology, hazards, water quality, and public services that reduced those environmental effects to a less than significant level. And then there was also a set of impacts that were determined to be significant and unavoidable even after all feasible mitigation measures were implemented. So that includes aesthetics, air quality, cultural resources, greenhouse gas emissions, noise, recreation, transportation, and utilities. Let's go on to the next slide. Following the 2014 EIR, the county implemented a few very specific focused projects under the 2014 EIR and prepared what we call an addendum to the 2014 EIR. So it reaffirmed and evaluated that the impacts for each of these focused specific projects was within the umbrella of impacts that were evaluated in the 2014 EIR. So that includes the restorative care village, phases 1 through 5, which is currently under construction. and what we call the stabilization project in June earlier this year, which was focused on demolition of certain structures and a seismic retrofit of the general hospital. So that brings us to today. We can go on to the next slide. And since we already have an EIR from 2014 that has been prepared and approved, and we have a substantial amount of information, previous studies, and mitigation measures that have been adopted by the county, the CEQA guidelines requires in these instances where there's already been an EIR certified for a project that a subsequent EIR should be prepared if certain conditions are met. Those are outlined on your screen here. The first one is if there are substantial changes that are proposed in the project that would result in major revisions of the previous EIR, resulting in new or more severe environmental effects. The second condition is if there is new information of substantial importance that could result in one or more severe environmental effects. And then the third is whether there are new or revised mitigation measures that should be considered by the county for adoption since the previous 2014 environmental impact report. So, of course, since 2014, a number of things have occurred. As mentioned, the county has embarked on preparation of a new master plan that will include elements that differ from the previously adopted plan. There are also environmental requirements, policies, and procedures that have changed in the last 10 years. For example, there have been changes to the way the state of California assesses transportation-related impacts. Other new emerging topics have come into play, like wildfire, tribal cultural resources, and energy. We also have new tools and policies that guide how we assess environmental impacts, such as new air quality modeling tools, more recently adopted county plans, including the county's general plan, zoning ordinances, etc. And we also, again, have this need to confirm whether the mitigation measures that the county previously adopted are sufficient to reduce environmental impacts for the new master plan, today's project. Therefore, the CEQA guidelines, given these conditions, allow us to prepare what is called a subsequent environmental impact report, and that is the process that we are currently embarking on. Let's go to the next slide. So in addition to this environmental impact report being considered a subsequent EIR that builds off those prior efforts, the county is also considering this SEIR to serve as what we call a program level EIR. As Kristen mentioned, the master plan is going to identify kind of a maximum development envelope that could occur on the campus. And accordingly, the program EIR will evaluate that maximum scenario. There are not any specific site plans, development plans that are resulting from the master plan. It is more this high-level type of analysis, which is consistent with what was done in 2014. So the CEQA guidelines states that a program EIR is an EIR for a series of related actions that can be characterized as one large project and either related geographically or in connection with the issuance of rules, regulations, or plans that govern a long-term program. A program level analysis allows a lead agency to consider broad policy alternatives and program-wide mitigation measure strategies. It can be used to simplify the task of preparing environmental documents for later activities in the program. And in summary, because our project, in this case, the master plan, will consist of components that would be implemented over a period of years, estimated 25 years for purposes of the SEIR, the county has determined that a program level type of review is appropriate. Let's go on to the next slide. Kristen, can you advance to the next slide?
Are you able to?
There we go.
I see
Thank
the
you.
next slide.
Okay, there we go.
Okay.
So what about future projects? Again, the EIR is looking at kind of a maximum development envelope at a program level. The EIR will not be evaluating specific project site plans because those are all future activities that are going to take place. And all of those future projects will be subject to staying within the thresholds of the SEIR and will also be in concert with the community benefits agreement that Kristen mentioned and separate future community input will be a part of those processes. Let's go on to the next slide. The next slide shows an overview of the CEQA process and schedule. Oh, Kristen, it seems like there it is. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, this slide provides an overview of the CEQA process and the anticipated schedule for completion of our SEIR. As you can see, the opportunities for formal public input are highlighted in yellow on this slide, and we are at the start. So at the very beginning of this environmental review process. This is the first opportunity of several to provide input into the environmental review process. And additionally, as Kristen had mentioned, the master plan is also going through its own separate but interrelated sets of community engagement and outreach processes. All comments received during the 30-day public comment period, which runs through October 27, will be used during preparation of the SEIR. Over the next several months, after our comment period here closes, we will be embarking on preparing detailed technical analyses that will inform the environmental analysis in the SEIR. We anticipate that the SEIR will become available for public review in late spring, early summer 2026. And there will be a lot more information in which the public can review and try to get your arms around during that period of time. After the 45-day public comment period, we prepare what is called a final environmental impact report. The final environmental impact report will include all of the responses to comments. So we prepare written responses to every comment that is related to the environmental impacts and the environmental impact report. And all of that information, there might be some revisions or refinements to the EIR, and all of that information compiles what is called the final EIR. That is anticipated to be completed in summer of 2026. At that point, once it's complete, all of that information, the draft EIR, all of your feedback tonight through this process, as well as the county's responses to comments, will be presented to the County Board of Supervisors, and they will utilize this information in their determination as to whether or not to approve the master plan, the community benefits agreement, and certify the EIR. And that is currently scheduled for fall of 2026. I see where we are on time here, so I want to just do a quick summary. The next slide, if we could go on. This is a high-level summary of what you can anticipate to see in the SEIR. There'll be an introduction with a lot of this information that was shared tonight, a detailed description of the project and the objectives, and a lot of that information will come right out of the master plan. And then really the heart of the SEIR, of course, is the impact analysis. So there will be a full assessment of potential environmental effects and ways to reduce that through mitigation and alternatives. Let's go on to the next slide. There are about 20 topics in the CEQA guidelines that we will be evaluating. They are all listed here. These are very similar to what was evaluated in the 2014 EIR. If you wanted to take a look at that, it ranges from air quality, noise, tribal cultural resources, historic resources, of course, transportation, so a full array of environmental issues. So the next time we come back to you for a CEQA-focused community meeting or public comment period, there will be a lot more information and a detailed analysis for you to take a look at. So with that, I think we can move on to the next slide and to the public comment portion of our meeting. And again, just wanted to reiterate that the purpose of this meeting tonight is really focused on the environmental review process. And there are going to be other opportunities and forums in which you can engage in the master planning process. So please stay tuned for those. Reach out to the contact information that is in the notice of preparation and make sure you stay engaged. But tonight, we do really want to receive comments focused on environmental issues, concerns, or suggestions. And also remember that verbal comments are not the only way that we want to hear from you. You can type your comment in the chat. You can go back tonight and think about all this information and send a letter, an email, anytime through October 27th. So just wanted to remind you all of that. And with that, I think we can turn it over to Emily, who's going to help facilitate the public comment portion.
Thanks, Addie. Like Addie mentioned, my name is Emily Fan Michelson. I'm going to be helping to facilitate the public comment session. I'm just going to review again the ways to be able to submit a comment. So if you want to advance to the next slide, Kristen. So there's two ways you can submit in writing via the chat button. So the chat button can be found on the toolbar at the bottom of your screen. And then you would just type in your comment. And please be aware that there is a limit of about 1,000 characters for a chat message. So if you just have additional comments, you're welcome to create a new chat message, or you can send in your comments via email or US mail, and Kristen will be providing additional information on submitting written comments during the public comment period. If you'd like to provide a verbal comment, please click the raised hand button. We will be calling on people in the order that hands are raised. And once your name has been called, we'll allow you to unmute yourself. And at that time, you'll receive a notice asking you to unmute. You'll just want to click on that unmute button and you'll be able to talk. Also, once you are unmuted, please go ahead and state your name for the record. Each speaker will have 1 minute to provide their comment. It's important that we keep to the 1 minute time limit, as we want to be fair and give everyone who's providing comments in this meeting the same amount of time. And once you have identified yourself, we will start the 1 minute clock and you may provide your comments. I did also want to mention that each speaker is going to be allowed one opportunity to speak, and you're not permitted to cede your time to another speaker. If you have additional comments, please do submit them through the chat feature or in writing at any time during the 30-day public comment period, which will end October 27th. So currently we have 2 hands raised. Let's see, Pamela will be our first speaker. And after that, the next speaker in the queue is Jesus. So I'm going to go ahead, Pamela, and unmute yourself, and please go ahead and state your name before providing your comment. Oh, it looks like Pamela just lowered her hand. Okay, so Jesus, we're going to go ahead and call on you and allow you to speak. Once you unmute yourself, please state your name and begin your comment.
Hi, how are you? My name is Jesus. I use they, them pronouns. I work at Self Help Graphics and Art. I'm their arts advocacy manager. And I just have 2 questions. My first question is just, so my understanding is that the EIR is, evaluating the potential environmental impact of this project. And at the same time, in that evaluation, it is in doing so setting parameters for the project as well. My concern is that in this revision of the EIR, right, especially because we haven't had access to the original language of the EIR, that community benefits are being limited through this evaluation. And I'm wondering if in this evaluation with the EIR, if we can potentially consider maximum potential community benefits in this evaluation when considering potential impacts. The second question is just if there will be a potential opportunity for people in the community to suggest categories for evaluation that are not beyond the minimum legal requirement. For example, what would be the potential impact of
Can you please wrap up
gentrification?
the comment?
That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next up we have Christy, and then it looks like Pamela has her hand raised again. So we'll start with Christy, and then Pamela will go ahead and go to you.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you so much for this presentation. I also have 2 questions. The first one is, I'd like to know how you all approach the community outreach, because in the local unincorporated community, which is in close proximity to this project, our local groups are not here about this meeting. And so I think in order to maximize the participation and the comment period to provide you with additional feedback, I would like to know if you're going to host another meeting so that you can have a larger turnout and more community participation. Because we did not hear about this from one of your hosts, which is the lead, Supervisor Solis's office. And then 2, how have your efforts explored how this housing project will impact and scale plumbing, electrical, and water infrastructure? as a part of this EIR and the impact to the daily quality of life of local residents, including homeowners and small businesses, but also the traffic patterns that will interfere with the general traffic, hospital traffic, and the emergency vehicles that will also increase carbon emissions. Because a few things that I would like for you to consider are just ensuring that there is sufficient.
Sorry, can you please wrap up your comment?
Thank you. And also just last thing, especially these environmental issues, considering we're already facing Exide, the Palisades, Altadena fires, and the freeway pollution. Thank you.
Thanks, Christy. Okay, up next we have Pamela. You should be able to go ahead and unmute yourself. Please state your name, your full name, and then please provide your comment.
Thank you, Emily. My name is Pamela Agustin. I am here as part of the Eastside Leads Coalition based in Boyle Heights. And my comment is, my comment is around the time period for this community feedback timeline. You mentioned this is a 30-day public comment period. I just want to share that I agree that this is still pretty new to a majority of stakeholders in the community. At least, what is an EIR? How does it impact the community? What's the difference between this EIR and other previous EIRs within the health science campus? So I would encourage, and my question is, would LA County be willing to extend the public comment period 60 days? I've been part of efforts where 90 days were even considered for this process. When you say that the last time the county looked carefully at an environmental impact report, that was 2014. A lot has happened. That's 20 years ago, or not 10 years ago, 11 years ago almost. So yeah, please, can that be extended?
Thanks, Pamela. All right, next up we have Ari. Ari, I'm going to go ahead and allow you to unmute yourself. Please state your name and provide your comment.
Yeah, so Ari Gutierrez Arambula, I'm with the Latino Equality Alliance, which is a community organization, LGBT advocacy organization based in Boyle Heights in Latino communities. I'm also on the HICP, which is the Health Innovation Community Partnership. And I also, well, anyway, I visit the campus daily, so I'm kind of familiar and it's top of mind. So part of my question is that this environmental impact report, I think it's kind of looking at things from the ground, maybe underground, I don't know. I think there was some sort of a water thing going through it and what's happening with that. And then secondly, or how it could be repurposed. And secondly, my question specifically is, has there been consideration about how the air and the air traffic could be impacted in that space, or any limitations to that, if the building is used for maybe some revenue generating features like drone helipads or other type activities that are revenue generating and which could possibly help fund more affordable housing and other community benefits. So big question. I can also text stuff.
Thank you. All right, Yolanda, we see that you have your hand raised. I'm going to go ahead and, it looks like just lowered her hand. Oh, and it looks like back up. Okay, Yolanda. Oh, maybe they're having some technical difficulty. It kind of keeps popping up and down. Yolanda, I'm going to go ahead and try again to allow you to speak. Then unmute yourself and state your name and then provide your comment.
Thank you. My name is Yolanda Duarte, and I'm with Alma Family Services, also a founding member and of the HICP group. So the question I have is, will you give us an opportunity to review the major revisions or major edits that you've had to make in the first EIR from 2014? Have there been mitigations that you had to revise or edit? Will that be made possible for review so that the community can understand the margin of mitigations and the extent to which it might impact our community benefits agreements if there are changes there? Thank you.
Thanks for your comment. So it looks like currently we've gotten to everyone. There were some hands that were kind of going up and down, but I think we've gotten to everyone who had previously raised their hand. So if you would like to provide a verbal comment, please go ahead and use that raise hand function and we can go ahead and call on you. Since we do have some time, if there were folks that we already took a comment from, but that you had, you know, you didn't get to quite finish your comment, you're welcome to raise your hand again and we can call on you again to provide another comment. Okay. Misty, we see you have your hand raised. We're going to go ahead and allow you to unmute yourself again. And if you could just, if you wouldn't mind for the record, just stating your name again and then providing a 1-minute comment.
Christy Hernandez, a resident of Unincorporated East Los Angeles. One of the things I also wanted to share as you continue to explore this environmental impact, in addition to all the other items, is I know that housing is definitely important and much needed, but we have seen that there is a chronic parking issue in our community, given that there is continued development. And so we know with that comes more people and more cars. We know that AB 2097 says that if you have a development within half a mile of public transportation, you don't need to provide parking. We ask that you please do not consider that and that you do ensure there is sufficient parking given the population that will be living there and the folks that will be needing to come. I have frequented this area, and so I know that getting to that building itself, there's limited access, but parking will be really important. And I know that can be a controversial, topic, but I think it's one that needs to be considered because in unincorporated East Los Angeles, for example, we receive anywhere between 4,000 to 5,000 citations per month as a result of the lack of parking. So I'd like that to be considered in this EIR as you continue to think about the impacts. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments. Again, if anyone would like to provide a verbal comment, you can go ahead and use the raise hand function. We're also accepting written comments if you want to send them in via the chat. And we'll be on until the end of the meeting to provide an opportunity for everyone to provide their comments. Yes, and do you maybe want to go over just the methods if people want to, after this meeting, to submit their comments, and then we can come back to this.
Yes, definitely. So, as you mentioned, and I just want to maybe answer the question here in case everyone didn't see it in the chat, but the close of the comment period is set for October 27th. But we want to just reiterate there are various avenues of community engagement opportunities for folks to provide comments. You can provide a comment related to the EIR at any time. The 30-day period is set by CEQA, so we have established that as our period, but we'll accept comments at any time. We will be reviewing and assessing all the comments received, both on this call today, on others within that we come across in other engagement meetings, and through the email that is we'll share in one second. Preparation of the draft SEIR and technical analysis will be underway, looking at all of the sort of categories that Addie went through. And then the public comment period for the draft SEIR will follow later in the spring, summer of 2026 as we near completion of the draft. And that will be the first blush look at the comprehensive set of analysis for all of the different categories. Once we have that last 45-day public review period, we will begin preparing the final SEIR, which will go to the Board of Supervisors for consideration and adoption in fall of 2026. So again, how to provide comments. You can submit written comments officially by 5:30 on Monday, October 27th, but continually as they come up for you to the email address listed here, generalhospital@opportunity.lacounty.gov, or addressed to me, Kristen Hentz, at Department of Economic Opportunity at 510 South Vermont Avenue, 11th floor, Los Angeles, California, 90020. Again, there will be other public engagement meetings, which we will be sure that everyone is made aware of. Christy, I would love to get additional folks that we should be inviting to these from you, so we can be sure to have an inclusive community engagement process. And that's all for tonight. So thank you for attending today's meeting. As Elise mentioned, we'll be on here until 7. And other folks join on and want to provide a comment, you're welcome to stay, or you're welcome and ask more questions, or you can drop off and we'll see you at the next engagement.
Like Kristen mentioned, we'll be staying on, so if you think of other comments that you'd like to provide, please go ahead and raise your hand. Or again, you can submit comments in writing in the chat. Hi, everyone. Just a reminder that if you'd like to provide comments during this meeting, you can either submit them in the chat in writing, or if you'd like to provide a verbal comment, please click raise hand in the toolbar at the bottom of your screen. Thank you.
Good evening. There have been no hands raised or requests for individuals to make public comments at the end of this meeting. So, just wanted to reiterate the ways in which you can submit written comments through the end of the comment period, which ends on October 27th. You could submit your comments in writing via email or letter to the address on the screen here, which is 510 South Vermont Avenue, 11th floor, Los Angeles, California, 90020. Or submit them via email to generalhospital@opportunity.lacounty.gov. So we will be closing the meeting at 7 p.m. and thank everyone for your attendance.